God bless America. Hello, everybody. I am the Talk Radio Protege, and this is the Protege program. This will be my final video for the day. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope that you enjoy this video. Leave a like and subscribe when we get to the end. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments, all that jazz. I wanted to talk about this column from Bloomberg Politics. Because the tax plan is moving forward today, this article was written before the tax plan went to, or before the tax plan passed the Senate Budget Committee today. So we're going to be able to skip a little bit of it. So Bob Corker, Jeff Flake, and James Langford are the three Republicans that I suppose we should have been concerned about before the bill hit the Senate Budget Committee. But the Budget Committee approved the bill today. It's going to the floor, moving beyond those senators so we can skip over them. Let's talk about Ron Johnson and Steve Daines, I assume that's how you pronounce it, objections to the bill. And their objections are that the tax break to pass through businesses isn't big enough. I'm assuming that these two senators will introduce some kind of amendment to the bill as things continue to move forward. I don't think that these two senators are going to vote against the bill over these tax breaks not being big enough. So moving right along. Susan Collins, absolutely cannot count on Susan Collins on this one. And the reason we can't count on Susan Collins is because there's a measure in the tax bill to repeal the Obamacare mandate. Susan Collins is a liberal Republican from the state of Maine. She voted against the Obamacare restructuring bills that happened a few months ago. And she's obviously swallowed the blue pill when it comes to Obamacare. Her statement here in this paragraph, Collins says it's a mistake to axe the mandate in tax legislation, fearing it will cause healthy people to drop their coverage and drive premiums higher for others. The same reason she cast a pivotal vote to block an Obamacare repeal bill in July. Now remember, the mandate, forget this part here about how it's supposed to save the government $300 billion over 10 years. That doesn't matter. What matters is that the mandate is unconstitutional and needs to be repealed. The Supreme Court should have blocked it back when it was being passed, but instead we had an activist judge who we're supposed to be able to count on as being someone who's going to stick to the confines of the Constitution, rewrote the legislation from the bench. So we have Obamacare, and it has to be repealed by Congress. Now, I did see one comment on, maybe it was this article, maybe it was a different one. Somebody said that Collins is afraid that people are going to give up free health care if they're not required to have it. That referring to, of course, the Medicaid people that are covered under the Medicaid expansion. People are not going to drop free health. Anything that they have that's free, they're not going to throw it away because they don't have to have it anymore. She might be right about people dropping their coverage if they're healthy, but these are people that are being compelled to join a system that they have no desire to be a part of. These are people being forced into commerce for the sake of other people, and these are people that should rightly not be forced through these processes. Collins is also a socialist and doesn't want the top individual rate to be reduced from 39.6 to 38.5%. moving on to John McCain. John is an odd egg. His main objection to the Obamacare restructuring bills were that the Senate hadn't gone through the proper orders before the bills went to the floor, and that's why he voted against it. Yeah. Somebody that would rather see us go through the proper processes and get to a wrong result than to see the right results happen the first time around. Apparently McCain has a record of voting against tax cuts in 2001 and 2003. His big hang-up, though, on voting for bills is if they went through the proper channels. For some strange reason, McCain is going to vote against a bill that he wants if it didn't go through the proper channels. Against a bill that he campaigned on getting passed, like the Obamacare repeal, if it didn't go through the proper channels. So we just have to cross our fingers and hope that the wise, whatever you want to call this guy, that are the elitist Mr. McCain decides that these bills have gone through the proper channels and are worthy of his vote. Now, Jerry Morgan is a little bit different. Jerry Morgan's from Kansas, and he is reflecting on what happened in Kansas. And the way that I understand it is that Kansas implemented massive state tax cuts. I don't know what the nature of the tax cuts were. I just understand that they are allegedly like huge tax cuts. And Jerry Morgan has decided that the federal government doesn't need to go through what Kansas went through, which is after they implemented these massive tax cuts, they continued to spend and spend and spend and spend and spend. And in the short term, when you slash taxes, revenue goes down, obviously. So in order to keep the government running in the long term, to allow the benefits of a tax rate decrease to be truly helpful, spending also has to be cut. So that's what the state of Kansas failed to do, was they slashed taxes and then kept spending out the nose. And the state hit a budget crisis. And so the Republicans that control the state of Kansas had to hike the tax rates. Now, so assuming then that the bill goes through all the proper channels and John McCain decides that it's worthy of his vote, and assuming that these other two senators, Johnson and Daines, decide that these tax breaks, the tax reform that's in the system, or that's in the current form of the bill for the pass-through businesses, are good enough, or whatever cuts are good end up in the final version of the bill are good enough, then it doesn't matter if Collins and Moran decide not to vote for the bill. It doesn't matter if Collins says, well, I don't want the Obamacare repeal, so I'm not going to vote for the bill. It doesn't matter if Jerry decides, well, tax cuts are bad, so I'm not going to vote for the bill. It'll be split in the Senate 50-50 as long as no Republicans refuse to show up and vote. And then Vice President Pence will come in and break the tie. That being said, it would be nice if Jerry Moran would go ahead and vote for these reforms. It would be nice if Susan Collins wasn't a liberal Republican and would just go ahead and switch parties or do something. The only reason that she's in as a Republican is because she's a liberal in a liberal state. So that is going to do it for this video. I am very excited as the tax reform bill continues to move through Congress. I'm really looking forward to the coming years and seeing, getting perhaps to watch these tax cuts energize our economy and getting back to the reality that the economic plans of reducing the tax burden on the economy and on consumers is actually good for the country and is even better for the government than hiking rates for the sake of income redistribution. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to leave a like and subscribe. Hit the bell for notifications so that you don't miss a single video. I'm uploading videos every weekday. I hope that you'll come back and tune in tomorrow. Until then, good night and God bless.